Howdy everyone, it's me once again, the one and only Killer Rodan. And alright then, I just thought I'd just review yet another obscured low budget feature. And yes, of course, it's a movie that hardly anyone would know about. Yes, it's a blast from the past. Because of course, obviously, that's what I do here, talking about some movies that hardly anyone wouldn't know about. Especially if it's low budget and whatnot. It has to be old, of course. And there's another Western film I'd be talking about, and it's this one here, folks. Branded Men. So, okay. Why not? Might as well, I guess. Anywho, of course, like always, let's just talk about the plot, shall we? So, here we go, I reckon. Oh, yeah. Anyway, in this story, we're in this character named Rob, and let's just say things get pretty crazy. They go into this. He and this other individual, they immediately become sheriffs. The previous sheriffs have been killed by this one individual and his gang, who can't wait long before they make an attempt on the trio of characters, of course, and whatnot. So yes, something seems off, of course. There's something weird going on, as you might expect, of course. And that's the thing, though. Of course, you gotta have some kind of drama going in here, folks, in some kind of way. That's fine. But yeah, that's the real thing. It's a pretty crazy movie where these characters have to defeat the bad guys somehow because these people are up to no good, and these individuals have to be defeated. Of course, these individuals aren't up to no good. So yeah, and of course, here comes this kind of movie. Of course, yes, obviously, it's not gonna be something that how do I say this? It's not gonna be like I guess super fancy with the action and whatnot. Of course, you do want to keep in mind that it's very low budget. So yes, the story itself is pretty straightforward in a lot of ways, and that's fine, I guess. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, really. But anyway, as this film stands, I thought this was a pretty solid Western movie. I did like the idea here, and yes, this is supposed to be one of these American pre-coded Western movies. And yes, if it's pre-coded, yes, obviously you can get away with it a bit more. So yes, that's definitely thing. I know I mentioned this before. Yeah, I don't mind talking about this kind of stuff. The pre-coded era of Hollywood. The pre-coded era of Hollywood was a time and period in the American film industry that occurred between the widespread of when it comes to the adoption of sound in film in the late 1920s, an enhancement of the maybe not enhancement, the enforced of the motion picture production code censorship guidelines, and which of course is a lot of bullshit, of course, if you ask me. But yes, this was enforced in a lot of ways just because of the religion, really. Yeah, so religious people had a hand in this because if it's something's too racy, of course, and whatnot. And yes, talking about a period of time where some films in the late 1920s and early 1930s depicted of implied sexual innuendo, romantic and sexual relationships. When it comes to some group of people, profanity, illegal drug use, prostitution, stuff like this, of course, and whatnot. That was not allowed up until after the fact, of course. So yes, there might be some things in this movie and that might be offensive to a certain group of people because of that. So yeah, I kind of missed that kind of a thing when you come to think about it, of course. So yeah, it's going to see certain type of characters that were shown to profit from their deeds, like bad people or whatever. In some cases, without repercussions, of course, obviously. And there's the whole idea that some movies around this time that may feature independent, strongly sexually liberated women, many of which you can't show after the fact, of course. But anyway, point over is that in this movie, here, Braided Man, it might be Branded Man. I mean, it shouldn't come to surprise. Like I said, there might be some things that might be too offensive nowadays, or even out of the fact that some things may not be pleasing to some people, of course, because it might be offensive. Again, I'm just throwing it out there in case anyone comes across this movie and watches it. If someone gets offended by this film, you can't say I didn't warn you. I'm just putting it out there, of course. I'm just saying. Yes, of course, folks. I do recommend this movie. Obviously, I will say it's not too shabby in what we're trying to do. But again, if this something that offends some people, can't say I didn't warn you. But anyway, I just thought this was a pretty solid movie as a whole. I liked the story, I liked the acting and whatnot. All this was pretty not too shabby, I suppose. Yes, obviously, he's not gonna like I was saying before. He's not gonna be one of these super fancy special effect type movies. He's not one of those like high concept movies like Independence Day or the Transformer movies and whatnot from Michael Bay or whoever else. I guess it's not gonna be like one of those kind. It's not gonna be those ones who's one of those kinds of movies. Okay, folks, just throwing it out there. And yeah, just thought this would be a good way to talk about some movies. Of course, and when I get brought up that often, again, I realize this is not the most popular thing to do on YouTube, but I don't give a shit really. Because my channel, I do whatever the hell I want. I don't follow trends. I don't even follow. No, just no. Yes, obviously, I do realize talking about these types of movies isn't exactly the most. Oh, I guess the fastest way to get the most views and whatnot, most subscribers or whatever. It's not the easiest way to do that, of course. But I mean, I know on YouTube trends they come and go. Yes, I realize that. Obviously, I'm fully aware of that. I'm just saying. Anyway, so I just thought I'd just cover this as a way to talk about something to do with movies, of course, especially something from way back when, obviously. So here we are, I reckon. Okay, dokie, but yes, obviously, it's just something I want to talk about because I like these types of movies. I like to talk about some old movies that hardly anyone would know about. It's just my way just to show something where, obviously, shine some light on some movies, of course, shine some light on some old movies that maybe you might be interested in seeing. Maybe you might be interested in seeing, of course, obviously, and it's just to talk about these kinds of stuff as a way to, I guess, express these types of stuff, like how a lot of these old movies are actually quite good. I mean, that's not always the case, of course, but in this case, it is, obviously. It is, I liked how this was done. You see who's the good guy and who's the bad guy and whatnot, of course. And yeah, just how the story is constructed. It's done its own way, obviously. So I just thought, okay, it's a pretty crazy story, pretty wide storyline in its own little way, of course. But yeah, I do think that this was done in a way where, yes, obviously it's wild, of course. I did like the idea here, what they were trying to express, of course. And yeah, I would recommend this. I would recommend this kind of a thing, of course, because like I was saying, the story itself is pretty straightforward and whatnot. The movie's not that long, not really. It's a good chunk of these I've reviewed before are fairly short. The thing about they're fairly short actually. From the thing about it. Okie dokie. So here we are. But yeah, ultimately, yes, of course. Why this might not be the most popular thing on YouTube, of course. But I just thought I'd just talk about this because I like to talk about these old movies. I do enjoy these types of features because they have their own charm in some ways. I can say that they have their own charm because they're not done like they used to, for one, and also because I mean it might not be restricted as by the code of art. What's the how do you say that the like some religious context maybe stopping certain filmmakers from doing that type of movies they want to do. Of course, and that's a pain in the ass. Of course. Anyway, yes, obviously this is one of those types of movies where it was made back then in the early 1930s. Yes, I know it's old as dirt. This movie's a damn dinosaur when you think about it. It's ancient, which yes, I realize that of course. I just thought I'd just talk about this anyway, regardless, anyway, because I know not a lot of people would want to talk about this, but I do it anyway. I know a lot of people out there would just want to dismiss this movie just because it's old, just because it isn't black and white. But like I said, there's a certain touch when it comes to these types of movies. There's a certain charm to them, of course. And yes, and I'm going to sound like a broken record. I'm pretty sure a lot of people heard this before, like multiple times. They don't make them like they used to. Which, yes, I will agree. They don't. I mean, there are some exceptions, of course. I'm not going to dismiss every mainstream movie. All right, I'm rapping on here. I'll give this a Nova rating, a 7.0 of 10. It's 7.010 for me. Thanks for watching. See ya. Oh yeah, later.